Hi, this is Paul Slackers, Good News Planner, speaking to Patrick Hohman. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Just fine.
Good. You're a board member of a condominium, if I have that right. And you've been
Right.
doing it
For a long time.
And you have a website called condohoainfo.com.
Yes.
And a book, an association leadership guide, Protect Property Values, Gain Peace of Mind, Condos, Townhouses, and Homeowners Associations, How to Make Your Investment Safer. Okay, financially, is your association running on empty? Okay, that's not good news, but to know there's things you got to do. Tell us a little bit, how did you get involved with something like this?
Well, 29 years ago, as a first-time home buyer, and not knowing any better, I bought a small condominium in an old apartment building that had been converted to condos. Little did I know that financially that's one of the most dangerous places you can buy, because sometimes the component parts of the building are already worn out, old roof, old pipes, old everything. But we've done a lot of gut renovations and learned about reserve studies and how you project cost, and so we've gotten through it, but I sure didn't know about it at the front end.
Okay. Well, I can empathize, and I understand a little bit about this because I've lived in a co-op here in New York for about 27 years, and I have a condo also in an older building out in Montauk, a landmark building. So, and I've been on the board for 27 years. So I'm the vice president of the board and have done all the different jobs because we're self-managed. I guess, what is self-managed?
Self-managed is when owners volunteer to take care of all of the affairs of the property. The next step would be what is called a portfolio manager, who might handle 10 to 20 different buildings or properties. And then the real gold standard is if a property is big enough, if they have full-time on-site manager. So the self-managed is usually about half of the associations are completely self-managed.
How many people, say in America, live in this type of an association, a condo, or a?
It has zoomed up so much, Paul, in the last 30 years. But last year, in 2010, the best count is about 62 million Americans out of 307 million total population. And back in 1970, it was only about 2 million people. So it's just gone through the roof.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a variety of things. Out of that 62 million, about 60% of that are people who live in single-family homes within homeowner associations. That most of the new suburbs for the last 30 years are homeowner associations, and their shared expenses every month are not that much if they just have to maintain a clubhouse and a pool and maybe a tennis court. But if they have to maintain and pave the streets and do street lights, it's really more like running a small city. Why is that occurring? Well, I'm a baby boomer myself, and as those 78 million baby boomers start to retire, a lot of times they would be moving out of a single-family home into a condominium, patio home, townhome situation. I call it assisted living light, if it's done right, and so there is a demand for that.
Okay. So now let's go to the baby boomer, and now we have lived in a house. The kids are out of the house, and blah blah blah. You want to join you want to move down to Florida, or you want to go somewhere that does have this kind of community association. What are some of the kinds of things that you should look for? I know your book is quite in depth. Congratulations. It is a very, very important book that you've created here, and I know it firsthand, as I mentioned, because a home, in most cases, wouldn't you say, is the most important investment that a person has?
It is. It is. And there's no doubt about that. And sometimes the self-managed can be problematic. If they're good volunteers and steady volunteers like you and your cohorts, that's wonderful. But if it's not very well done, that can be a real disaster.
Because, in essence, this is, in most cases, the person's biggest asset. And if it's going to be financially insecure, you're in serious pain, possibly.
Yes, exactly.
This is not a laughing thing. To be involved, I suggest everybody to have some experience knowing how the building is run and what's the, backup, what's the reserve fund, all these things. That's what you're suggesting here, right?
It is. I give examples of different types of associations and sample financials and reserve studies and that kind of thing. But I like to say to people, too, because few people out of the total pool of owners come to meetings, come to the monthly meetings, or even come to the annual meeting. But I like to say to folks, even if you move out of a single-family home where you don't have to do physical labor to take leaves out of the gutter, if you move into a condo association or co-op, you're still going to have to apply some of your brain power. Maybe not physical labor, but brain power. At least read the monthly newsletter. Go to 1 or 2 meetings a year. You need to do that to keep up with your investment. So that is some advice.
What are some other things that people should do?
Well, in addition to that, I think that before you move in, there's a few things that you really need to check. The main thing, there's 2 areas. One I call quality of life, and the other is looking at the pure financials of the association. If there is a reserve study, and when I started to teach about this subject 6 years ago, I said if you only remember the 2 words, remember the words reserve study. It's only required in 5 states out of 50 right now, and you don't have to fund it. It's merely a financial roadmap to the next 20 to 30 years based on when engineers project that some major components would break down, and accountants are projecting how much the monthly fee ought to be so that you won't have to have a gigantic special assessment to meet those expenses, reserve study. So if there is a reserve study and you can check that, that's number one. But then on the quality of life side, even though it's a good idea to read the 25 to 50 pages worth of maybe bylaws or rules, but a lot of people don't do that, just like people often don't read a health insurance policy. So, find out if you can even have your pets there. Find out if what other rules there are about noise and the living conditions. What are the parking rules? Because those are so big that if you don't take a look at that and you move in, you could really be unhappy.
I agree with you entirely. It's a very, but as you're saying here, a lot of people, don't know about all these kinds of things. And your book has tremendous benefit. Your website also, and so far I see you're a real do-gooder, and we like that. You really care about everybody having some knowledge here.
I do. It's been like a mission and a ministry for me. I had to cash out a pretty good chunk of my 401k to tape the interviews and put those up on the website, but it isn't being addressed, and I really want people to know about it. So, it is unbiased, just consumer advice.
Yeah, it is. A great job. I mean, I think it's extraordinarily important, as I say, because I've lived it, and I've lived in essence some of the ups and downs of it. Where sometimes when you have elected officials here running the building, they think they're running the government. and then we've had all kinds of situations because we've been self-managed all these years. I love it because to me it's like a commune, and we're here in little New York City here. So yes. It's a real interesting experience to actually be sharing. It's almost like being in the dorms, but not being in the dorms with adults.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. It is. And when people think in terms of shared expenses living, there's always going to be some rules. Now, if you think about a nuclear family in a suburban single-family home, there's a lot of unwritten rules about what goes on between the family and all kinds of negotiations and TV show advice, but not so much advice for a larger set of shared expenses within a building. So that's what I'm trying to fill right now.
Okay, well, you're doing a great job. Last question, and I'd like to speak further and see how we might be able to partner on getting this word out, because it is very important, good news. What's good news for you?
Good news for me. Good news for me is when I hear people who didn't know about these ideas before, and they can look at the website or read the book and gain a lot of understanding. So that's good news for me. Okay.
Well, you're a do-gooder. Once again, congratulations on the success of condos, townhouses, and homeowners associations, how to make your investments safer, necessary financial reserves. I don't like that empty over there. It's all good, but thank you for doing it. It's a very noble task.
Okay, my pleasure, Paul.
Take care, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.